All right, that's interesting. Hey everyone, welcome back to Bald Guys with Guns. I'm Rob, and today is another reloading video. It's been a while since we've done one of these. The last one I did with this gun in particular, this is the Ruger American Gen 2 Predator in 223. Got an Arkin EPL4 4-16 by 44 on there, and a Omega 300 suppressor on the front. Anyways, the last time I was out with this, my video was about fireforming brass. And after that video, I got a comment saying that if you purchase good brass, you know, like Lapua brass, you don't need to fireform it. It's a waste of components and stuff. And it got me thinking, because all I had ever heard was you need to fireform your brass. And I didn't want to just say, well, I've been told differently and not, you know, take the guy at his word. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to test that theory. And so I've come out here with Lapua brass, 69 grain tip match Kings, Varget powder. It's the same amount of powder, and it's my load development round. At least this was the load that I used in my Starline brass. And when I was fireforming, it seemed to be a pretty decent load for the Lapua as well. So it's the exact same bullet, powder, primer, and they're all Lapua. One is fireformed and one is not. I have 20 shots of non-fireformed, so straight from the factory, and 20 fireformed shots. So we're going to do groups of 5 downrange and see what the results are. I got a chronograph attached to the gun here, so we're gonna. I'm not necessarily worried about the group size at 100 yards, as I am chronograph readings. I like to see personally single-digit SDs. That's what I shoot for when reloading. Extreme spreads aren't a huge deal. I've noticed that if I stay 20 or less on the extreme spread, I'm single digits, right? 25 or less even sometimes, because if you have just one wild one, you can still stay single digits up to 25 extreme spread. So that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. I want to be single digit SDs because I know that will track further out, right? When I'm going 800 yards, the bullets are going to stay consistent, you know, and granted, even then you can have that flyer, but the SD is what I worry about more than the ES. And so anyways, we're going to shoot these and verify chronograph data and see if the straight from the factory brass holds up to fireform brass. We'll start with 2 groups of 5 fireformed, and then fresh brass. Okay, second round with the fireformed. Well, I can say that my hand loads aren't doing as good as or doing about as good as factory loads at this point, but these can't get TMK in factory. Alright, let's send these 5. Non-fire formed brass. Exact same load as the fire formed. $28.90. That's actually closer to where I want it. All right, single digit SD out of the first group of non-fire formed, but all of the speeds were right where I expected them to be with that load. So this is telling me is that 2 things. Yes, non-fire formed can perform, but once you fired it, it changes the dimensions of the brass, and you need to adjust your load accordingly, so you can't necessarily use the same load unless in non-fire formed brass that you use in fire formed brass, which still argues that fire forming is important. So that's what I'm taking away from this right now. We're going to run the second set of 5 before we take anything definitive, but I mean, I had 2 in a row with fire formed at about a 20 SD, and this first set was at a 9 SD with the load I expected to work that good in the fire formed. All right, let's run the second set of 5 now that the barrel's cooled down. Non-fire formed brass. That one gave us a 12.3 standard deviation, which is, you know, I'm not mad at that. 28.90, I mean, that's sitting right where I want the speed to be. So 2 5-shot groups consistently going the speed I want out of the non-fire formed brass, and the fire formed brass, I have 2 sets of 5 that are going way faster, which tells me that something changed from fire forming. I think I'm going to run 1 more set of 5 of each just to verify. We'll start with the fire formed brass. All right. This will be the third set of fire-formed brass. Yeah, yeah, it's faster. Don't necessarily mind that. Problem is it's not consistently faster. It's fluctuating all over the place, which tells me it's a bad powder charge. Except for this set of 5 is being very consistent. Oh man. Alright, there it dropped off. Well, oh, it didn't get that last shot. I'm going to make it read a 5th. And there we go, back up to a 20 standard deviation. One that was down at 29 where I wanted it, the rest of them way above. That is very interesting. All right, let's shoot these last 5. Since the sun's out, it's getting so warm already that it's taking forever to cool off the barrel. So there's definitely going to be 15 instead of 20 like I mentioned at the beginning, but still 3 sets of 5 with each I think is pretty good data. All right, I'm going to put this one on the far right by the other 2 non-fire formed groups. Dang. This set's looking real good. Wow. Oh, that one jumped. All right, that's interesting. That one had an 18 standard deviation, but again, we had I think just one that went wild. Let's look at the history here real quick, because that's still going to give us good information. Shot list. So 28, 74, 2932. So 2903, 2905, 2904. I mean, those are the numbers I'm wanting. And realistically, so 2 wild shots threw the SD off, but again, still, with that powder charge, I feel like this Lapua brass is more consistent with this powder, this exact load with factory. That's wild. All right, so what did we learn today? Well, I learned that fire-formed Lapua brass doesn't like the same load that my fire-formed Starline brass likes. But I also learned that factory, straight from the factory Lapua brass does like it. If I could afford to just buy thousands of pieces of Lapua brass at $1 per piece of brass, you know, I could just run it fresh all the time. But since the point of reloading is to try to save yourself some money and reload the same brass all the time, I think that this does give some good information that fire forming might actually make sense, and still does to me based on this data. Other people may have had other experiences with that, but I mean, live on footage here for you, fire formed brass with the exact same load as factory, straight from the factory brass. I was getting 50 FPS faster with the same load, and because that powder charge was pushing it that fast, it was also like erratic and into the 20s for SDs, not ES, which is bad. I want it to be single digits. And so that tells me that when it's going that fast and after it's been fire formed, it doesn't like that powder charge. It's a bad powder node. So I can't use the exact same load in the fire formed brass. So for me, that advocates that I need to fire form my brass so that I can develop a good load after it's been fired. Now, if I keep that data, if I keep this data, I know that with fresh Lapua brass, I can load this exact load and be good, but then I have to change it afterwards. But, you know, we learned something. So at least I did with 223, this gun specifically. It could vary gun to gun. It could vary caliber to caliber. You know, those are the kind of tests I haven't done yet, but I'll tell you that for this particular use case, fire forming, I still say is important. So let me know what you think in the comments. I mean, again, if you think differently, that's totally fine. This is just what happened for me today. And I literally did it because I was curious, not to try to discredit anybody or say that you're wrong, because with different calibers, it could be a true thing that you can use fresh brass the same as fire formed brass. But, you know, I've personally heard differently from some experienced shooters, and it's something I'm going to probably keep doing. I think fire forming is important still, so let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys all watching. See you later.